Hello and welcome to the FloorCast, episode 3, the internet podcast that can't afford any furniture, so we do it on my floor. Hey, great. Welcome back. This week, we have a very good friend of mine, another university friend, and I swear to God, this whole podcast is just going to be university friends. Or maybe friends of friends, I really don't know, but thank you for tuning in again this week. This week, we're talking about video games, we're talking about game ideas, and we're talking about Lucid Dreaming on top of that, which is awesome. So please, stay tuned, and thank you for sticking around. FloorCast, Episode 3. Enjoy. And we're off. Okay, cool. Awesome. So first of all, today we're drinking Heineken.
Yes, very nice, very nice.
And while I'm doing that, hello, who are you?
I'm Kevin Chen.
Yep, cool.
Second year game student at RMIT.
Yep.
Met Aubrey at a pub, I believe, a few months back, and we've been best buddies ever since.
That's right,
yeah.
ever since.
Ever since.
So thanks, Kevin, for being on, by the way. Yeah,
no, thanks
really
for
appreciate
having me.
it.
This is really good.
There's a lot I want to talk about,
Yeah.
like a crazy amount. And I hope
we've had these discussions and
I
we
know,
can go on for hours and hours. And
I hope we
hours.
can get through all of it, or not like break
Yeah.
into different like tangents too often.
Let's try to have some focus.
All right, so you're a game designer, right?
I am a games designer.
And arguably the best one I've seen in our course. Okay, really?
I believe that it's hard to qualitatively just define like the best games. I mean, look at Alex
certainly.
Perrin, right? Like,
Yeah.
he's amazing as well. So,
Yeah. But yeah, you've done some quality stuff.
I do try and make good stuff.
Yeah.
I would not say that I'm the best, like hands down. I would not say
Amazing. Yeah, but you've done like things like Rabbit Rush that got like IG.
You got an honorable mention at IGF.
Yeah. So that's quite notable for one.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But what are your more current projects?
So currently, I've been actually on a leave of games. Actually, in absence of games in my current studies.
Okay.
Because last year, during my first year, I
Yeah.
just super tunnel vision, like needle thin vision, into games. Right?
I want to make this game.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that actually had a lot of negative repercussions, right?
Oh, okay.
Most notably, just, I don't know, some of my. It's in terms of design. Design, and also just my social life, life in general.
Your social life just went down the whole.
Yeah.
But you did create a beautiful game out of it.
Yes.
So
and it was worth it. I think it was worth it. It was an
Yeah.
excellent experience.
So right now you're trying to branch out, and
Yes, definitely.
but you do have multiple projects on.
I do.
Yeah.
Projects, and should we talk about those, or do you want to just talk a bit more about just games in general first, and talk about it later? Or?
Well, I mean, like this podcast has only been about games.
About games?
Well, I mean, like everyone I've interviewed so far has been a gamer or like a game designer.
Okay, yeah.
So, I mean, I guess if I had to say if this podcast had a theme,
it's a game. Games, right?
Games,
cool.
yeah.
Let's talk about games. So
let's talk about games.
Let's talk about games. There are. Okay, so I'm at a crossroads currently. In regards to my next big project, I usually try and have at least one big project every 6 months or so.
Okay, yeah.
And my next big project, I'm hoping I will actually release commercially. So it will be my first commercial release.
Oh, wow.
Exciting.
You did not tell me that.
Yeah, okay. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Is it hush hush? Is it secret or?
It's not really hush hush, but I literally came to this conclusion 2 days ago. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I told you about this, right? I had that kind of epiphany.
Yeah, that's right. You didn't actually finish that thought, so I never really got the answer.
So for quite a long time, I was kind of just waiting, biding my time for this super big, awesome dream game.
Yeah.
And I realized that's not gonna happen.
Okay.
I can keep dreaming of this dream game forever, and I need experience. I need real world experience, and I need to just release something.
Okay, yeah. So you're aiming really high.
Before I was aiming really, really high, right?
Okay, yeah.
And I was just dreaming for that, first game release Minecraft style kind of.
Right.
No. But I don't think that is what I should do. What I should do is just do something small. Yeah, it might not be the best. It might not be, you know.
But you'll get experience from it.
I get experience,
and hopefully it'll go commercial.
Worst case scenario, doesn't do too well.
Yeah.
I get experience. That's still right.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, it does well. Yeah, win-win. Right?
That's
win-win.
great. Yeah.
Well, it's the other thing. It's like high risk, but also high reward, but also very high risk.
Yeah.
If it doesn't do well, then that'll be like say a year and a half just down the drain.
Oh, dude.
Which
this is like hit you right in the heart. Oh man, yeah.
And I'm at a crossroads into the game I want to make.
So do you have an idea?
I have a lot of ideas.
Okay, so
four main ideas.
Four main ideas.
I've discussed this.
Anything that calls out to you that's like...
All of them calls out to me. I hope they will call out to you too. This will be the first time I actually publicly told anybody about what these ideas are.
Oh, okay. All right, cool.
And
I feel very honored.
Anybody listening to this, feel free to steal the ideas because it's not like, oh, these are my ideas. Like, they're out. And the amazing thing is, I'm just asking people. I've asked people like Harry Lee, right?
Yeah.
Knows a shit ton about games.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And I'm like, hey, has anybody done like these types of games? And they're like, no, you're right. Like, not really.
Oh, okay,
like,
okay.
Harry gave me some examples, right? But they were usually either very niche,
yeah.
So they're super art based, right? So not for commercial.
So untapped potential.
But yeah, hopefully. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, enough talking. I'll just get to what the ideas are.
Okay. Go ahead.
So
please.
The first one is an competitive, action-based multiplayer fantasy game. Okay, so the first three words, right? So we've done before. Last word, not done before. Okay, so when you think fantasy, when you think magic, what do you think of immediately?
Final Fantasy? Yeah.
Final Fantasy, RPG, narrative, right? Leveling up, Diablo, items, right? Loot quests, grinding, right? All that stuff is almost just tied in irreversibly with this idea of fantasy.
Generic, yeah.
I want to make a fantasy game that gets rid of everything, right?
Okay, what?
So there'll be no leveling, no like storyline, none of that.
Oh.
Think a game like Team Fortress 2 or Counter-Strike, you just drop right into the booth, right, and action.
Oh, whoa, cool.
And you'll be like, sorry.
You told me about this.
I did tell you about this?
Yeah. Elaborate though.
Elaborate, yeah. And it'll just be, 5-minute, 10-minute sessions. Think something like Counter-Strike Go, where it's highly competitive, but also like quite easy to get into.
Yeah.
But the main thing is, I want to just get rid of this idea that fantasy somehow has to be like, oh, I need to have like a super long intro,
Lord of the Rings style,
right? Oh, these narratives, these characters you don't care about, cutscenes, more cutscenes.
Is this game gonna have an end state, or is it literally gonna be like maps in TF2 where you
maps in TF2?
So you just drop in,
you play,
and you fight other characters.
Yes, you fight other characters.
Okay.
And you won't so you're like, oh, isn't that kind of like Dota or League of Legends where you level up? They won't even be leveling up.
Oh, okay.
You'll start off like in TF2 with everything available to you.
Skill-based.
You can probably customize your character in like what spells you're using. Maybe each character has 4 spells.
Yeah.
And you go in with those spells, and they're just set. Right?
That sounds amazing, by the way. Yeah.
And people will be like, okay, so that's cool. It's pretty much an FPS, but in a fantasy world.
That's right. Yeah.
But what makes it different from just FPS? Why shouldn't I just play Team Fortress 2? And the main difference is FPS. People just think shooter. They think guns. Yeah. They think World War II or.
But then what is
sci-fi?
Like magic, right? That's kind of like a gun, except it's coming out of your hand.
Exactly.
Right?
So what's the difference? And the difference is there's so much you can do instead of just fireballs, right?
That's true. Okay.
You can teleport. You can go invisible. There's these crazy things you can do in a magical setting that you can't do.
That sounds really fun.
Setting. Yeah.
It sounds like TF2 at the same time. Like the spy, you can go invisible. The engineer can build buildings. Yeah.
But have you ever seen Avatar?
Yes.
Avatar, that idea of like bending the elements to your will.
Oh yeah, that would be really cool.
It's like this kind of power, almost fantasy that people always wanted to do. And the closer we get, the closer we get is the RPGs, but it takes so long to get there, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And it's also, they also represent it in a way that I feel doesn't do it justice. It's I press this button, I cast Fireball, 257 damage. Right? You don't feel it. You don't actually feel like you're flying the air, just throwing down a Fireball.
There's no knockback or there's...
This game will be purely physics-based, right?
That's so awesome.
So it's just going to be like...
Okay, so that's one down.
That's one down.
What are the other threes?
The second one. Second one is what I will currently call Digital Warhammer. So, do you know what Warhammer is?
Yeah, I used to play it. In fact, cool. I heard you too used to play it as a kid.
Yeah, I used to play Warhammer as well. And So basically, a digital miniature collection game that also involves a fighting element. Yeah, this is something I think has not been done either, and there is a market demand for.
Okay.
The closest we come these days is things like Hearthstone.
Oh, okay, right? Yes, okay.
Where you have a card collection game, right? And then you can battle with it. But I feel like a miniature collection game, right? Like digital miniatures where you can rotate, you can paint, right? You can customize.
That'd be really cool.
That would be so cool.
What about what's that Disney game? Earth Defenders or something like
Skylanders?
Skylanders, that's it.
Yeah, it would be kind of like Skylanders, except for aimed at a more mature audience.
Oh, okay, cool. And interesting, yeah.
I believe in Skylanders, you usually only have like a fairly small party. This would be like full on like large
armies.
Game.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Like a game typically lasts for an hour. Wow.
And very much about instead of just collecting characters, but also customizing a character. So making your own unique army. Right?
Yeah.
Having your own kind of color.
That's very interesting. And like every unit has a different ability
exactly.
Place in the machinery.
Yeah.
A lot of potential, but would it be turn-based or real time?
It could be both. So there is obviously two parts. There's the collection element and then also the gaming element. The gaming element is up in the air.
Yeah.
But the main thing I really want to emphasize is that there is this collection element.
Yeah, that does sound really fun, by the way.
And I realized that, people are like, oh, but there's games like Civilization, Dawn of War, right? You already have that. I'm like, but you miss out on so much of that collection element.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
When I played Warhammer, like, the best part wasn't actually playing the games. That was fun. But the best part was like that army building, army list making. You just have your little book of your units and kind of just dream about the possibilities, right? You might never be able to play, but like, oh my god, this spell will work so with this character. This would be the bomb,
combos
right?
are amazing.
Yeah, the combos are amazing, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine like you start off the game and you start off with like a base army, and then as you play, you like gain new units,
exactly.
And then you like make a smaller or like ragtaggier army with it and like see how it works together.
Exactly, yeah. And your units, they'll all be customizable. Like in Warhammer, you have different weapon options.
Would you be worried about the metagame after a while? Like eventually people will
eventually and stuff is a big so this will be a pretty big game too.
Yeah.
But I think it has a lot of potential.
Sounds amazing. What's the third one?
The third one. This is a game I actually want to play myself, probably more than most of the others, because it's a game like I always. So I have a friend called Joe. We're housemates, and like sometimes we're bored. I would just go to one of them, like, "Hey, do you want to play something?" And the game will inevitably be like a Dota or Left 4 Dead, or one of those when I play games, right? And the problem with those.
Tell me when you play Dota, by the way. I'll play with you.
Yeah, dude, totally. The problem with those games, right, is they're actually best with 4 people, 5 people,
that's true,
some of 3 people, trying 3 people. I want to make a co-op game that is for 2 people and only 2 people. You cannot play with more than 2 people, you cannot play with less. Right? There is exactly one game I can think of that does this, and it's called Ib and Ob, I think. It's a platformer.
There's also another one called Army of Two.
Oh yes,
yeah. But that one's more like steroid, like guns.
I really didn't like.
Yeah, me neither.
It was very generic.
But
a good co-op, right? And emphasizing the co-op because there's sort of competitive games 1v1, but a good co-op game just for 2 people. I think there is a market demand for that as well.
Of course, yeah.
The problem with this idea is that it is still very vague. Because I got this idea like, but I don't know the mechanics, right? So far it's kind of vague.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting. So what's the fourth idea then?
The fourth idea is the one I'm currently going for. Right? So this is the one I locked on.
So it's the grand finale. This is the one you were building up to.
And it's probably not as exciting as you're hoping, right? It's a game that I spoke with a lot of people and they're like, it's excellent. Like I want to see it made, but it's actually not something I would play.
Okay.
Like, that's probably okay. But as I mentioned to you like last time you visited, I'm secretly a massive anime fan. Shh, don't tell anyone, right?
Don't tell anyone.
Don't tell anyone. But I'm actually
you say
a
over
gigantic otaku. Like, I've seen it all. I've
seen things.
Yeah, I've seen things I cannot speak about.
Anyway, go ahead.
More specifically, I also play quite a lot of visual novels, right?
Okay.
So the good and the bad, and I've stopped playing the bad because they are actually really, really bad.
Yeah.
But the good ones are actually quite good.
Visual novels.
So things like Ace Attorney.
Oh yes, of course. Yeah, I've played
Until Dusk, Ghost Story? No, what's that one called? But there's quite a few that are in the English kind of translation, but a majority are still kind of Japanese exclusive. And before I go on, I'll clarify a bit. A lot of people do associate visual novels immediately with kind of like the adult porn game genre because let's be honest.
That's what we're trying to do.
So I want to make this furry sex scene, actually. It's gonna sell millions.
Ooh la la.
Yeah.
It probably will, though.
Yeah, it will. But yes, whether or not you also want to sell your soul for that. Yeah. Hey, then again, like, I have nothing against furries. Like,
no, of course not. Yeah.
Everybody has their own weird stuff, and that's just.
I have my own weird stuff, as I'm sure you do. Yeah. As I'm sure everyone else in the world does. As well.
Really embarrassing story. I just kind of do an anecdote, but last semester when I had my Rabbit Rush team, right? So it was me and Tamara Clark, Sarah Lynn, and
Sarah Lynn.
Laura Hells, right? Mm-hmm. 3 excellent artists, by the way. If you guys need artists, check those.
Yep, go to those guys.
Super good. And anyway, Tamara Clark, she came over to my house once in order to use my beastly rig to render some things, right?
Okay, cool.
And so she was using my computer, and I don't ever delete my history. Right? And more important, I don't ever delete stuff in my downloads folder. And she was like, just let me download this file. Right? And I was like, okay. And she opens up the download folder, and you just see like all the porn I've had for like the past 2 weeks.
No.
I'm like, awkward.
Oh, Jesus.
But like, if I tried to do anything, it would just make it worse. So I just kind of like sat there like, like.
You play it cool. You're like, whatever, man.
I played it cool.
Which is like the only way you can actually play,
I know that is the only move.
Any way you could.
That is the only winning move, right? Everything else is losing moves. Yeah.
It was like some really weird porn.
Yeah. It was at least illegal.
I love how that was meant to be mentioned. Just to clarify.
Yes, you cannot use this against me in law.
That's a funny story.
But that was.
In boarding school, I've had a couple of people walk in on me while I was like jerking off, and that was embarrassing.
Yeah, it was embarrassing.
Yeah.
Do you have any siblings?
I do. I have a twin sister.
Okay.
Yeah. I never really see her anymore, like much though.
Okay.
Because like we kind of like boarding school kind of separated us.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
And then like also like university kind of separated us on top of that. But yeah, so the 4th game, you never really elaborate on the 4th game either.
Long story short, I want to make a whatever the heck that means. Next generation Western-based visual novel.
Okay, interesting.
So a truly next generation. So one massive gripe I've had, and I think I'm going to talk a bit about this later in the kind of progression of future media. Right?
Yeah, future media.
Is how visual novels as a medium and anime as a medium has kind of stalled.
Oh,
right?
yes.
With some very rare exceptions, right? There are some directors out there that do crazy stuff still, and good go.
It's very saturated at the moment. That's for sure.
99% of the stuff out there is just crap. Just pure crap.
Yeah. Or generic.
Just generic.
Yeah, really generic.
Yeah. And same thing with visual novels, right? And not only the narrative, right? People are like, oh no, but you should check this one out, Kevin. Like, it has like this really amazing story. Like, okay, cool, that's good. But I also mean from a mechanical point of view. I actually want to make the engine itself like completely next generation.
Whoa. Okay.
Visual novels is just like pictures, text. Another picture, text.
Option, picture.
Yeah. Option. Like, I like your hat. Your hat sucks, right? Yeah. That type of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm planning to. And I really won't go into details because it's quite technical. But
okay. You don't have to go into details.
It's all going to be like animated. Like everything's going to be animated.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, did I show you my Emporium game?
You did, but you showed me like early. Early.
I didn't show you the later ones.
Yeah.
But it's going.
You can show me in a bit if you want. Yeah.
Okay.
No problem.
It's almost like film, like cinema, right?
Yeah.
And the narrative is presented through just subtext, subtextual kind of clues and context.
Okay, just a surrounding.
But also, it's like a new way of presenting information.
Okay, very cool. Very
text is good, and I don't think text will ever die.
Yeah.
But I want to try something new.
Okay.
Like actually advance the genre.
Make it spice it up a bit. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. This might go very far.
And again, it's something that a lot of people I know and I respect will be like, no, I'm not actually going to play that because they're not big fans of visual like that, and I understand. But I know there is a massive massive community out there of anime fans of Japanese media,
especially since you're connected with that, so you understand that community very well.
Exactly. That are just dying for this to happen.
And you're going to be their messiah.
The stuff out there so far is there's some decent ones, but nothing that impresses me.
Okay, very cool. Very, very cool. Man, good luck with that, seriously. You you told me that you came to like an epiphany. I wasn't aware that it was like this sort of like huge sort of like, well, not like just an aim at a commercialism and bringing one of these ideas up into like the mainstream.
And commercialism is almost a dirty word, right?
I know. You're selling yourself.
You're selling yourself out, but it really isn't. It really isn't.
It's business.
Yeah, it's business. Like,
it's business.
And I think also like going mainstream, that's also a bit of a dirty word, right?
You're selling out, dude.
Yeah, you're going mainstream. What the hell? But to affect people, right? Yeah. That's just how mainstream you are is kind of how many people you communicate with, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And so obviously I don't want to just dumb things down like, hey, this is like generic, like, high school romance comedy, like number 27. Right?
Yeah.
No one how I'm going to do that.
It would be funny if you did that, though.
Oh, no,
I'd play your game. I would play that.
Play it and laugh. Just laugh.
Your shitty writing.
Yeah, it's like, and like, and Aubrey-kun was approached by Senpai.
Oh my god.
Notice me, Senpai. Kawaii.
Oh, dude.
Right. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. Now, do you want to keep talking about games? Because I'd really like to move on into like lucid dreaming.
Dude, how about you talk for a bit? I've been talking too much.
Well, that's because the spotlight's been on you, right?
You talk for a bit. I need to drink my beer.
Okay, go ahead, please. So Kevin Chen, you are a lucid dreamer, aren't you?
I am a lucid dreamer.
So you understand the sort of basic mechanics of like like dreaming.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, like from the conversations I've had with you, you're actually quite talented at this. Or like
lucid dreaming?
Yeah, lucid dreaming, yes. Actually, first of all, let's define it. So lucid dreaming is being awake in your dream rather than real life.
Conscious. When you become lucid in a dreams, like when you regain this consciousness you have in the waking state.
That's right. Yeah. So it's like as being awake as you are in real life, only in the dream. Yeah. So
and by doing so, you can manipulate pretty much anything you want in your dream because it's all in your head. Right?
You basically become God in a simulated space.
Whoa. But
big words.
That is kind of what happens.
That is the gist. Yeah.
It's like a daydream that is super realistic and you have full control over.
That's right.
And
now it's a rare talent. Not a lot of people have it, and it's actually a rare. It's actually a hard thing to exercise. I found
it is.
It takes a lot of time and practice to actually hone your these like muscles that allow you to like wake up in a dream. Like for a while, I was like training for a while, and then I got. I induced insomnia for a little bit. So for like 2 months or so, because I kept trying to stay awake in my dreams, I ended up staying awake in real life. So like it was interesting, but that was like just a learning period, and then I moved on to like other techniques and stuff.
I suppose, I don't know. Lucid dreaming is also one of those things that people like. Oh, it's like that kind of new age type stuff. Like
new age.
Lucid dream is 100% perfectly scientific and real. Like. Google it, look it up on Wikipedia. It exists. Yeah. So we're not crazy.
How do you prove it though? That's the only thing. Like,
they have proved it. How they prove it is
brainwaves. Brainwaves?
No, not brainwaves.
Okay.
Even clever idea, right?
Okay.
Because during dreaming, one of the main physical features we do is rapid eye movement.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
In lucid dreaming, we actually have. Our whole body is paralyzed when
we still have motor function over our eyes?
We have motor function over our eyes, only our eyes, right? So what they do is when they have subjects in lucid dreaming state, right? Or they also do monitor their brainwaves, so you are right to make sure they are still asleep.
Yep.
But this lucid dreaming subject, they will speak to. While lucid dreaming, you still get some external sensory feedback. So you can actually hear sounds from outside, and I'm sure you experienced
I've experienced that before.
It's weird because they also affect your dreams, right? So they'll be like, okay, if you can understand this, like, look left, look right, look left, like 3 times. And they'll do that, and thus they
and then boom.
Lucid Dreaming is
yeah. But then again, of course. So they confirm that they're still asleep using brainwaves.
Brainwaves.
And then they give them instructions and
ensure that they are conscious while they're asleep. Yeah.
Boom!
Science.
Head exploding. Science. But yeah, it's a very weird skill, and I've actually learned a lot from doing it. I don't do it anymore, by the way.
It is very tiring.
It's very tiring. So the only times I ever do it now are induced naturally.
Induced.
Yeah.
Naturally?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes
I can only do it now these days if I induce myself into it.
Because, really?
Usually I'm too tired to.
You work too hard. You gotta sleep more. Well, I sleep sometimes because I sleep enough. Sometimes I'm put in a state where it's perfect for me to actually wake up in a dream. So I wake up in a dream easily.
When you oversleep, it's so much easier.
So much easier. Way easier. The other thing I noticed was being hungover.
Hungover?
If you're really hungover and your whole body's in pain and you're sleeping, you know the physical feedback. You still feel it in your dream, right? So you still feel that pain of being hungover in your dream, right? So here's a very clever tip, right? Mm-hmm. You wake up, right? Mm-hmm. Grab some aspirin, eat some aspirin, go back to sleep. You're still in a lot of pain from being hungover, but you're drunk enough to fall asleep in your dream. Mm-hmm. And then once you're asleep and dreaming, the aspirin kicks in, and then your pain threshold is lowered, and then your consciousness is able to rise above it, and then boom, you're lucid. It's
not sure if it's worth it, but
might not be worth it. Don't do it.
Please do not try this at home. These are trained professionals. Do not try this at home.
But I found out this technique inadvertently from being hungover.
Okay.
But it blew my mind when I discovered it. I actually had out of body experiences because of this. A whole story that I think I've already told you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, lucid dreaming, very weird thing. I did wake up one day, I was sleeping. My first lucid dream, actually. I was I woke up in my dream, mind blown. I was like, oh, I'm here, and then I started walking around my dream and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Woke up, and then I was completely confused whether or not I was awake or not, because it was so real between the two. You know? Have you ever had that?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. Confusing, right?
Well, that's always reality check, right? You know, just reality check. Reality check. Yeah. So, by the way, a reality check is a technique that you do in real life to see whether or not you are actually dreaming. Right? Yeah. So there are some things that are almost constants when you're dreaming. For instance, you can breathe even when your nose is held shut. Yeah. So a reality check is to just hold your nose shut like this. Yeah. Try to breathe in. If you can breathe in, you go in a dream. Yeah.
Wow. And it's because in real life your nose is free and open to breathe through. Mm-hmm. So while you're dreaming, you're still feeling that, and so even though you're blocking your nose, you can still breathe. Exactly. So you I'm obviously sleeping. I'm dreaming right now.
Interesting note. Did you know that the Inception movie was influenced and heavily inspired by lucid dreaming?
Yeah, of course.
The director. It's quite obvious to lucid dreamers, right? It's this is lucid dreaming, movie, right? But people are like, oh, that stuff is not real. I'm like, dude,
it's totally real.
They made a movie.
They made a movie about it.
Oh, so it's not as crazy as it is Inception, though, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You can't have two people in the same lucid dream.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Although there are what are they called? There are people who say that they meet each other inside a dream, for instance. They have an out of body experience and then they're able to meet up on the other side. Now, I've never experienced this per se.
I've never experienced that.
I'm pretty sure
I'll remain skeptical.
Exactly. Yes. But there are people that say this.
Oh, I understand.
But on the side note, this is just one of the mechanics of lucid dreaming. But it's very fun to do. It's so fun to do.
It is the coolest.
You can have anything you want
because it's literally anything. I think of the most amazing video game. Yeah. Right, virtual reality type thing. Yeah. Right? You also have all your organs available to you, so you can smell, you can taste, you can do anything. Right?
Ooh, I did explain to you that one dream I ate orange gummy bears, right?
No, I don't. Tell me about it.
Okay, I'm going to tell you about this one dream I had about eating orange gummy bears. Is everyone here ready for it? I'm pretty sure you are. I'm going to tell you anyway. All right, so I was in Vietnam, and during the time I had a lot of free time, so I was just sleeping a lot. And I had this dream one morning where I was in a town, and they were having a giant farmer's market, and I was just walking through the farmer's market, and I realized I was dreaming. Very simple, easy start to lucid dream. So I was like walking around, I was like, oh, whoa, I'm lucid. I did a bit of flying, you know, landed down, looked around. Like, colors in dreams are so vivid and beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing. And then I noticed there was like a giant basket of orange gummy bears, and I was like, you know what? I've never eaten something in my dream before. You know, I want to try it. By the way,
you've never eaten anything in your dream before?
Well, I mean, I never really like went consciously like I'm gonna eat everything, you know. Like, so I was like, I saw these orange gummy bears.
Things. Yeah.
I was like, I saw these orange gummy bears, and I was like, you know what? This is interesting. I might as well try it out. Yeah. So the weirdest thing to me happened. What? It was like. It was very strange. So, first of all, I went up to the basket of orange gummy bears. I took it, and I looked at it. I looked at an orange gummy bear in front of my face, and I was like, okay, I'm going to put this in my mouth. And the moment I put it in my mouth, it went out of my visual system, right? So it was no longer existing on a visual sense, right? And then it got placed, and then the orange gummy bear got placed in a whole new area that was my mouth. Uh-huh. And the moment I put the orange gummy bear in my mouth, I saw myself creating that area that was my mouth. You see, like this is where lucid dreaming gets weird, right?
I've never had that happen to me before.
Really?
Yeah.
So anyway, like I took the orange gummy bear, it was right in front of my face, put it in my mouth, and because I can't see my mouth, I had to assume everything, right? So I assumed that the mouth was like hollow, you know, it had a tongue in it, some teeth, you know, it felt like this.
Because everything in a dream you have to create from your mind.
Yeah, from your mind.
Including your mouth.
So I felt myself like creating my mouth, sorry. And then like what it would be like to have an orange gummy bear enter that space, right? So it was a very abstract thing, you know? It was like, here's your mouth, right? Here's what it feels like. Oh, here comes a physical object. It tastes like orange. And then this was the next part, the next layer that was like, wow, which was like, the orange came in. Now what does orange taste like? Okay, here's your tongue. And then, like, my mind just got blown because, like, you can't, like, as much as you can recreate everything.
It's almost like an infinite loop, you know?
Yeah,
like, what you think it is what it will taste like, which will inform what you think it is.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So.
Boom. So anyway, I put it in my mouth, and then, like, it tasted like orange, very briefly. But then you notice that you're like, it was, like, a little more sour than orange, or, like, it was, like.
And you might like the micro adjustments. It's just weird.
Yeah. So then I woke up and I could still taste like the orange in my mouth because I was creating it in the dream, and so it just like translated into reality, and I was like,
it really just shows you that reality is what we feel it is. You know, what we experience.
Totally.
Reality is what we experience.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And it blows your mind sometimes. So.
You know, actually, on a small side note, I started a gratitude journal. So it's like
So
it's like just a journal that you write in every day, like what we were thankful for. And dude, it's literally like we work with filters in our lives, right? Mm-hmm. And because I've been looking through the filter of gratitude, my life has just improved like amazingly. Like all the little things, like just like this podcast, or someone said hello to me, or I hanged out with this guy. Just like it all just accumulates and then just like snowballs, and then like. My life is awesome. I am so happy.
Nice.
You know, and it's like that. And lucid dreaming, however, is more on like the physical sense. You know, it's like everything you understand visually, like your taste, your senses. You know, this is more like a mental hack of that. You know, like removing, like creating.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I should try it sometime.
You should, man.
Because I'm like the most pessimistic person.
Ah, dude, you're not pessimistic at all.
Okay, I'm not pessimistic. Okay, I'm realistic.
Realistic,
I'm a scientist, you know. I'm a scientist. That's how we do science. Yeah.
I need to quantify everything. I need to understand the universe.
Don't you? You want to understand the universe,
of course,
right?
I do want to understand.
All right. Yeah.
What is this thing we're going through?
You probably want to understand the universe more than a lot of supposed scientists I know.
Right? Of course, yeah.
Well,
I'm bewildered every day when I wake up.
Yeah.
To like face the world. I'm like, wow, I exist. Amazing. Yeah.
Now let's not get too hung up on.
No, of course.
Reality and how can you not? You know.
It's an interesting thing to talk about, but it's a heavy-handed subject. You know?
We've had this conversation before. Like no matter how much we want to talk about it, it's almost impossible. Right?
Of course, it's beyond, you know, whatever.
So
That's why I like to stick with the small things, like this beer is delicious, or this room is nice. yeah. Or like like just basic podcast sort of stuff. So what is so you lucid dreamt before, or when was it the period you did it most, by the way?
During high school.
High school.
During high school.
Okay.
Because I discovered lucid dreaming.
Was that inadvertent, the discovery, or was that
Oh no, I read up on it online. I was like, I'm gonna do this.
Okay, yeah.
So I started training myself. Lucid dreaming, just doing the basic exercises, reality checking all the time. Right?
Okay, yeah.
My first reality check was actually, I had a watch on me, right?
Yeah.
And one of the reality checks is, you check your watch, and check it again.
Yeah.
If the time has changed, you're in a dream. Because time is not stable in dreams, right? Like, you'll look at 1, and then you look at it, and you'll be like 5. Yeah. Whereas in real life, time will always be the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting, yeah.
And then I got quite practiced at it, and I did quite a lot of lucid dreams, but most of the time I had to kind of trigger it like manually. I don't just naturally lucid dream. Yeah. These days, that's most of the lucid dreams I have. I just have kind of like, if it happens, it happens. I just don't really have too much time to, just...
Well, it's something that you have to like practice at.
Yeah. But like, the Saturday afternoon, you're just like, hey, I got some time, I'm just going to sleep. Lucid dream every time, right? Yeah. It's just so easy because like your brains are supposed to be awake. So your body goes to sleep, your brain stays awake. Yeah. Just lucid dream.
That's unless you can actually go to sleep, Sometimes
it's
sometimes I lie awake and it's like, whatever, You understand.
Yeah.
But so what was something like? What are the usual fun things you do when you have like the lucid dreaming?
I really like flying.
Flying is great.
Flying is just so
cool, good,
right? Yeah. And like at first I'm like, maybe I just feel like when you fly in video games, it just feels like you're just in a void, like a vacuum, like you're like moving in space.
Yeah.
When you fly in lucid dream, you feel the wind. It's just like
everything becomes like
so visceral. You mentioned how colors and stuff are so much more vivid in dreams.
Yeah.
I think that's because in our brain, right?
Yeah.
We don't as powerful as our brains are, right?
Yeah.
And it's surprisingly powerful.
Yeah, of course.
You're in a lucid dream and sometimes you're like, how the hell does my brain do this, right?
This is
but
crazy.
It's still not like full on 100% accurate.
Yeah, of course.
So it uses abstractions. So it'll be like, tomato is red. And your brain will ask, what does red look like? And it will just give you the red that it's the reddest red you ever knew, right? It is the purest red. And you're like, this red.
And then you eat it and you're like, wow.
This tomato is the most tomatoey tomato I've ever tasted, right? Yeah. So everything is like its purest.
Yeah.
I believe the philosophical term for this is qualia.
Yeah.
Qualia, as in like I believe it's actually Descartes that came up with the idea for qualia. Maybe I'm wrong though, and that might be a bit too quiet. Okay.
Yeah. Keep going.
And Descartes' idea of qualia is that we all have basic, in our brains, right? We have these basic ideas of what things are like.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So, and everything in the universe is comprised of these qualia.
Okay.
And thing cannot exist if it doesn't kind of fall under this qualia. So for instance, you're like, but then think about a unicorn, right?
Yeah.
Unicorn doesn't exist, but we have an idea of what it is. It's like, but unicorn itself is not a qualia. Unicorn comes from the qualia of a horse and a horn. Right?
Okay.
These two things exist. So they do exist in real life.
Put them together. Right? Yeah.
But it is impossible to have a qualia of something that does not exist at all.
Okay.
Right? So we can't think of a color like Schmerple that is like this color that doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't understand.
That is like off our spectrum.
Right?
Yeah.
And qualias are abstractions, right?
Yeah.
This is why each time we look at a dog, we just think dog. We don't have to think,
boom.
It has this kind of shape, trying to the database, query, 83% match dog, right? We're not computers, right?
Yeah.
It's like, boom, qualia dog.
Yeah.
In our dreams, that's what we understand. We understand these really basic qualities, right?
So we just like make it. We just
the purest like essence.
That's so cool.
Like essence. That's my theory.
Have you ever messed around with your senses inside a lucid dream?
my weirdest one is I tried being a hill once.
You tried being a hill once?
A hill. And, you did not hear that wrong. Like, a literal hill, like a mountain hill.
Yeah.
I was a hill.
How does that work? Tell me.
It was very earthy.
Oh, puns! Hello, welcome to the FloorCast. We do puns here.
I read on some like Lucid Dreaming forums about people who tried being like things that aren't
inanimate
human,
objects.
Inanimate objects,
yeah.
specifically chairs and weird crap. That's your fetish.
Personally, I've never actually tried that, but it sounds interesting.
Try it. Like, it's not actually that fun, so like you probably just do it a few times, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting though. It's very interesting, and that's the great thing about Lucid Dreams, right? Like, they let you do things that you will never ever experience.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I feel lucky that I'm able to experience these things. Yeah.
Do you ever try and speak with like famous people in your lucid dreams?
No, not really.
Not really.
Not personally.
Try like getting Albert Einstein sometime.
Yeah.
Speaking with him. You'd be surprised the amount of stuff he can actually explain to you.
Oh.
It will make sense.
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah.
I've had these sort of dreams where it's like the information is so raw and accessible that it's like the moment I wake up I'm like how did I know that? Yeah.
And then the thing is because it's theoretically it's on your brain, right? Like so you can't actually learn any new information you don't already know.
Yeah, of course.
But like it would be like some kind of your subconscious like processing this information into a way for you to understand.
Yeah,
try that sometime.
It's so amazing. Well, I've actually experienced it before.
Oh, yeah?
I mean I haven't really experienced it like I've never really sat down with like Albert Einstein and like consciously try to invoke it, But I've had these like things where like I don't know if it was like a really smart person who was telling me or like a computer that was explaining something to me, but like the information was so raw and so intellectual and like structured that like the moment I woke up I was like, well, okay, so that was a projection of me, but that was just so...
It's perfect. I'm a genius.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, what?
No, sometimes it's not even I'm a genius, like my brain is a genius.
Yeah, my brain is a genius.
Especially when you're lucid dreaming, you're like, oh my god, this stuff is so awesome. You don't feel like you're making it.
Yeah,
it's like this guy in your head. It's like, dude, you're awesome. High five, man. High five.
High five.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so amazing, man.
It doesn't work all the time, though. I once tried getting Gordon Ramsay, I think, to teach me how to cook better. Didn't work out too well. Turns out my subconscious had no talent for cooking.
Hey, you get some chicken, and then you get some celery.
I'm like, come on, Gordon Ramsay, you're supposed to be good at this shit.
Starts swearing at you and hitting you.
Slapping me.
I'm sorry, Gordon.
I'm sorry, Gordon.
Oh, dude.
No, it's great.
So, have I told you about my out-of-body experience?
Yeah.
So that was weird. I was drunk. I did the aspirin trick, and then like I literally was just rolling out of my body and walking around my house for like 4 hours straight. Very weird experience.
This house?
Not this house. Okay. The house back in Vietnam. But
okay.
It was a very weird experience for like 4 hours straight. I was just...
Wait, when were you at Vietnam?
Well, I grew up there.
Well, yeah, but like when did you move here?
I moved here 7 years ago. But that was for boarding school, and I've been here ever since.
But like
for education.
So you were lucid dreaming at a pretty young age then?
I was lucid dreaming at around 18, 19.
18. Okay.
Yeah. So like.
Oh, you went back a few times or something?
Well, yeah, I'd go back and forth.
Oh,
yeah. So it was only like when I hit 18, 19 that I was like go back and then
fair enough.
like practice lucid dreaming at home because I had the capability to.
You're 21, right?
I'm 21. Yes.
Yeah. Same age as me. You feel like more experienced somehow.
Well, that's because I'm a year above you in university. God damn it!
God damn it! Yeah,
But even though we're on the same playing field, baby. But yeah, so for 4 hours straight, I was just like, dreaming's very weird because you can confuse your physical body for like a completely conceptual body, right? So you're literally just rolling out of your body with another body that you think is the real body, and the moment you stand up, you're like, oh wait, this is not my real body. This is a dream body.
And sometimes like you feel almost like scared to like
hell yes,
to move too much, right? Because you're like, what if like, and it's almost like you have to like just, as Nike says, do it, right?
Yeah.
You know that do it moment, like, but if I move, I'll just wake up, right? Like, no, do it. Like, you won't.
Just do it.
Just do it, right? And it's crazy, because like, damn it, I woke up. Wait, no, I haven't.
Yeah.
This is a dream. What the hell is this?
So, yeah, it's weird. So those moments were actually not, they were just accidental, but they felt so real that they were so organic at the same time. So I was just like rolling out of my body, thinking I actually rolled out of bed, going downstairs, having breakfast, and then going, wait a minute, nothing's right here. Like it was as real as it could get. I was actually in my house, but it was like, you know, like the clouds were a little like weird, and I noticed that I didn't have a physical body, and I was like, what?
Like again, like just realizing it's all in your head.
Yeah. Like
that this almost perfect copy of this house is all in your head. It just blows your mind. Like, how can it be so real, you know?
Yeah.
How did I memorize this crap?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like this goes into another thing that I want to talk about, but like tangents, you know. This podcast has to be structured. So anyway, so I was walking around my house, and then I was like, oh wait, and then like realizing, oh okay, so I'm actually walking around, and I know that my body's upstairs in my bed, even though as the moment I rolled out of my body, I never really looked down. I just assumed that I'm here, and I walked down. But the moment I'm like, okay, so I am really dreaming, is the moment I click back into my body, into my bed, and then go, oh okay, and then roll out again, and then do the whole thing again. Wake up in quotations again, and shit got real, man. Like at a moment, like I was noticing people walking around my room. Now whether or not they were like projections, like dreams, is completely debatable to me, because like they were there, but they weren't noticing me. So for some reason, I was like looking at them, and they were just having a conversation, just doing their thing. But they weren't acknowledging me. They couldn't see me, even though I could see them. And they just like walked off, and I was like, wait, this is kind of weird. And then I started walking around my house and noticing like everything was alive in a sense, you know, like even physical structures, and like there were like things just moving through in and out of like my house, and I was like, what? And then like the very last thing I remember from this whole out of body ordeal was my dead cat. And I walked into my parents' room, everything detail for detail, exactly like my parents' room. And then on my parents' bed, on my mom's bed, was my dead cat. And I was like, wow, what are you doing here? And I was like, he was happy to see me, and I was happy to see him. And I was petting him, and I was just enjoying my time with him. I was like, this is amazing. I'm never gonna have this again. Yeah. And then the cat looked at me, and he was like, okay, it's time to go, or something like that. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then I noticed that his fur just like started fractaling in. You know, like it looked like fur, but it really looked like fur. And then it started just like hypnotizing me, and just destroyed the whole trance, you know. Yeah. And then I started dreaming for real. So I was no longer having these out of body experiences and actually like going into dreams. But I was still going lucid in these dreams. It was very interesting, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. So that's the whole story, yeah.
Can't say I've had like that type of stuff before, because usually I have my lucid dreams in foreign locations, just like kind of fantasy worlds. I just conjure up. Though like I cannot, you know, I do the spinning trick. Is that how? Oh yeah. This is interesting. How do you get around places in lucid dreams? You know, people have different shortcuts, right? I do the spinning trick myself. Yeah. You just spin really fast, and then you think where you want to go, and after you stop spinning, you're there.
Yeah. I use doors.
Oh, doors is good.
Doors are great. Doors are so easy because like you're literally just rendering whatever you want behind the door. So you're like
a video game. Oh, life is a video game.
You know, sometimes I actually ask that, like the moment I go to an unknown door and open it, it's like, okay, let's see how I render this out, and then I start opening it, and like I start rendering it out, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting.
Open it fast enough to see if you can catch that rendering. I got you!
The polygons.
Oh shit, guys, render faster. He saw us. Now I have to kill him.
Oh man. To a lot of people this sounds like crazy talk, but to me it's like it makes perfect sense because you know you go somewhere you've never seen, you know. Yeah. That's the other thing. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was like in a dream, right? You pick up an object. You pick up any object or you focus on anything. And then the more you focus on it, the more details unfold in front of you. The deeper in complexity it does, it works, you know?
Again, it is kind of like, you know, the video game, right? Our brain has limited resources.
Yep.
A RAM has limited resources, or hardware has limited resources. So when we're looking at a big scale thing, we can only give certain like things each, like say 10 megabytes, or 10% of our brain power. Yeah. And then, but if we're only fixating on one thing, right? We suddenly give this thing more and more of our resources.
30%, 40%.
Exactly. It just goes up higher.
It's very so that's the weird thing. So like in a dream, you pick something up and you focus on it, and then like you create all these details, and they just like in like they go intense in like detail.
Now, this something, and you fixate on it more and more detail. Like all of this stuff happens to this thing, and you lose focus on everything else. Everything just kind of melts away.
Like,
wow. It just, you know what I mean? Like, it just...
you bring that into your consciousness, and you just like details just bring up, right?
So I think in real life that actually happens to us all the time.
All the time.
It does.
But we take it for granted. We totally take...
And our brain tells us that that's not what it's like. It's like, I know everything's cool. Like, you know, you look at, like, say, that squirrel, and you're like, oh, I can still see Aubrey here, and a window there, and stuff like that. But there's actually a lot of blind spots. Yeah. Our brain kind of just fills in the gaps for us, right? It's just like... I
become an abstraction at the moment you, like, start looking at that, right?
Exactly, right? Yeah. And, like, this isn't just crazy joke, this is actual science. They have... our eye actually has tiny, like, visual area that actually has, like, detail attached to it. Everything else is just like super low res, super low res.
Yeah,
right?
cool.
The tiny middle bit has like really high res, like higher than any monitor. But the other bits are like super low res. Yeah. But our brain kind of just fills in the details, right? Yeah. So like the pattern of the carpet, which is like, it's kind of like that, right? Yeah. And then they've done tests where they'll like change the like what's happening over there while the subject is fixated on this point. Yeah. And they won't notice the change because the brain can't actually tell.
But yeah, so that whole thing about giving something your attention and then increasing its intensity or detail, completely true as well in your dream. So like you pick something up in your dream, pick up a photo or something, you notice that the photo increases in detail. Same thing in real life, you know. So the thing in dreams is that it's very obvious when you're doing it.
We know it, right?
Yeah, you pick it up and then you see yourself just adding detail and intensity to it. But then you wake up and then for some reason there's a filter there. So you pick up something and then you just assume that it's real, and you just add detail to it.
You assume the detail was already there, right?
Exactly, and so you're just like, oh.
Like, how would you prove that it wasn't
real? I know, like, exactly.
You can't, right?
That's why time's a bitch.
Damn it, I wish I could just time travel.
But, you know, it's kind of true, you know, like, like, without getting too intensely into philosophy or something like that, like, whatever's in front of us is the only thing that truly exists for the moment.
Reality is perception.
Yeah, perception. That's it.
Many philosophers said reality is perception. Reality is flux. It's whatever we experience it to be.
Yeah. So whatever's in front of us,
and there really is no other way to prove it. Prove otherwise. Right?
Yeah.
It's so hard to define like objective reality.
Yeah.
How are you gonna do it?
I met someone who was like one of the weird experiences they've had was they picked up the phone and they knew exactly who was going to be on the line and exactly what they were going to say and exactly what they were going to say back and exactly what the response was. So they had a glitch in the matrix, if you will. So they just acted at this moment and they just knew exactly what was going to happen. So it was like a moment of clairvoyance, right? Now that's quite strange because it's like that all the time with us, even though we're like, oh, this is like the normal moment, you know, we're meant to do this. But for some reason they had just a glitch and they were like, okay, this is what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes. You know?
It's just funny.
Yeah. But that's getting more, you know, like into the weird and
stuff,
and funny stuff, you know.
So just moving on in terms of topics, like, is there anything else you kind of want to talk about?
Okay, well, I'm glad you came on to talk about dreams because I never get the opportunity to talk about dreams. But I think we covered a lot of it. Okay, I'm very satisfied now.
Otherwise, there is the kind of the media type thing I was gonna.
Oh yes, the transmedia, right?
Yeah, transmedia.
Okay, yes, please.
So not driving my jumper.
So you had a huge thing you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. It's more of a rant than anything else. Just me ranting.
Come on my podcast and bless you.
Yeah, sorry. So, it seems as if Hollywood, AAA games industry, you know, AAA anime industry, that is going to hell without a single break.
Right? Dang.
It's a steamroller into hell. And it saddens me. It does. It saddens me because I love that stuff. You know, I'm the biggest fan of movies. I'm the biggest fan of video games. I'm the biggest fan of anime. Yeah. So how do we save the world, Aubrey? How do we save the world? Right?
Of media, do you mean, or of?
The world of media is the world. It is,
oh my god!
World, right? Because, I mean, like.
You seem frustrated.
I'm very frustrated. I'm very frustrated. Like, and it doesn't take a genius to see this.
Yep.
Everybody knows it. Like, everybody knows it. Even the supposed fans of, this stuff, they know themselves. They know deep down that all they get is the same regurgitated crap year after year after year.
Yeah.
And, nobody's really doing anything to stop it. Games does have that,
Games is very guilty of that.
For true way, but we do have the indie game scene, right?
Yeah.
So, sorry, there's a lot of generalizations made in terms of, nobody's stopping. There's heaps of great people out there that are doing other things.
Yeah, who are doing something,
Good on them. They are my heroes. They are my heroes.
That's great.
But games is, and that's why I really like games. And that's why I'm really proud to be part of the games kind of indie scene of the community, because I feel like, I'm helping this. But then you look at things like Hollywood, right? And you look at things like anime. And true, there are independent filmmakers.
Yeah.
Right? Actually, in Europe, there are actually quite a lot of really good ones.
Yeah.
I believe in France, they have a gigantic film festival every year, just dedicated.
Well, that's because the government actually subsidizes just like
good
directors.
Good on them. For culture to progress, right? For art to progress, you need that. Right?
Yeah,
you
definitely.
need that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're all going to get some crap.
Yeah, same old crap every year.
But it's still not like, it's still not hitting the mainstream yet.
Yeah.
And again, we talked about this before. Mainstream is a dirty word, but it is important.
Of course.
Right? To change the world, to change people, right? You need to communicate with them. You need to let them know this exists. And indie games actually has done a pretty damn good job.
Yeah.
And it just gets bigger every year, right? Every single year, just more and more indie games. Not all of them are good. There are a lot of crap ones, but it's heading in the right direction.
Yeah, I feel as though there are all these structures in place that are just like money machines, right? So these big companies that are like, this is the formula for a good game that sells well, even though it's like a generic game that they.
It makes sense. It makes sense because when it's a big company, you lose all of that artistic input.
Yeah, of course.
That single kind of direction, right? That clear. That clear, artistic direction, because it boils down to what will make the most money.
Of course, and which is sad, but
but that's understandable.
That's business,
That's just business.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to what makes the most money, then you throw everything out the window, and it becomes like a machine, like an engine designed to make money. Right?
But then you feel the lack of life in that, and you're just like,
It is. And that's why we have the indie games movement.
Yeah. Which is still happening. I think its peak was like, I had a talk about Alex Scotti about this. I think he mentioned the peak being around 2007 or something.
2007,
yeah. When Super Meat Boy and things like that.
I'll say it's a bit later than that, actually.
Later?
I'll
say
it's a bit later than that.
Well, even then, it's still happening now.
It's still happening now. But at the same time, there are still also lots of issues within current indie games.
Yeah.
There are a lot
of course.
But relatively speaking, I believe the game scene is better off than the film scene. And the film scene is better off than the anime scene.
Of course.
And I kind of just want to talk about why I think that's the case.
Yeah.
So
please do.
Why I believe that is the case is the way that those mediums are created.
Okay.
So a game, right? I want to make a game. How many people, in theory, do you reckon I need to make just a game? I think the least amount, right?
Well, you can make a game by yourself.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So I could just make a game by myself, and lots of people make games by themselves. I personally make these games just solo, right?
Yeah.
So a game you can make by yourself.
Yeah.
Which means if you make by yourself, you have that pure artistic input because there's nobody else to speak to, right?
You can be perfectly creative.
And this is something that I often get kind of into a bit of argument with my peers with is I think design by democracy is the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah.
Design by democracy
dude
does not work. it destroys design.
Horrible. You know Exobio? Exobio had a huge issue with that.
Design by democracy?
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Exobio was the game I worked last semester with a bunch of lovely people, but the whole like thing was that it was like democracy in design, and it just...
And I think... I might sound like a filthy socialist or something, but the idea of like democracy... Oh, I'm not talking about the politics behind it, right?
Yeah,
I'm talking about like, it's like this buzzword. I'm like, oh, democracy, good, democracy, yay, democracy,
yeah,
right?
Of course.
Design by democracy, the best type of design. Like, no, it's the worst type of design. Like, go away, democracy. Right? You have to make sacrifices. You cannot make everybody happy, right?
Yeah, of course.
To make a good thing, right? You have to make... A good product will have its haters, right?
Of course.
If you try and, as I believe some famous writer once said, if you try and open your windows and make love to the whole world, you'll get all sorts of nasty STDs. Something to that effect.
Yeah, of course.
If you try and, design a game that appeals to everybody, you'll end up making the newest AAA, generic, money, cash type thing, right? You have to make a game with It needs to be sharp and tangy, right?
Yeah.
No round edges, just spiky and like sharp profile.
This is it.
But this is it. Yeah. Pow.
Yeah. That sounds very masculine.
Sorry.
Here it is.
That's not the intention. That is not the intention.
No, I didn't mean it that way.
No, games just for girls. No.
A lot of guys do play video games, so.
That also needs to die. Like, games for everybody.
Yeah, that's true.
Back to the original thing. So if you have a game that's made by one person, or two people, or three people, then you get usually a really clear product in the end, right?
Yeah.
So you can actually make a decent thing just with one person.
Of course.
Also, in terms of the practical side, right? You can just make a really programming game with one person.
Yeah.
And if they have the art skills, that's great. But if they don't, they can just make a really low poly, low res thing, and it's still great.
Yeah.
Minecraft.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
The quintessential example.
The beautiful example.
Okay, now let's go to the next one. Film. How many people does that make? How many people do you need to make a film?
You could do it by yourself, but that's like shitty YouTube videos, So you need at least a few people.
Well, you need someone to have the camera and an actor, right?
Yeah.
At least two people.
Least,
that's like really trying to cut it down.
Yeah, that's true.
I'd say like a good film. And for games, like one person game can be like a mass market, wide appeal, like a big game.
Yeah.
Think for like a big, wide appeal type film. How many people do you need for that? Right.
A lot of people.
Oh boy. You need a sound designer. You need like say 3-4 actors at least, right?
Yeah, very least.
Director, screenwriter, maybe who's the director, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sound person, I said that already. A cameraman, you know these people. SFX.
Yeah.
It's like a team of 10, right? Something like that.
So media-wise, creating a movie is very complicated. Really over the video game.
Over games, right? And then you go to the next one, anime, right? Now,
anime.
I'm not sure if you kind of know what the anime industry is like, but just give me a rough estimate of how many people do you reckon you need to do a proper anime?
Oh man, if you want to make like a proper anime, you need like a whole studio.
You need a whole studio, exactly,
a whole studio.
So because it's just such a intensive medium.
Yeah, right? You need like a whole sweatshop,
frames, right? Yeah, you need a whole bloody sweatshop. Yeah. and this is what I'm trying to get at, because of the inaccessibility for these mediums to the indie genre, right? Yeah. You're not gonna start off with like a 30-man indie studio. You're not, right?
Yeah.
At best, maybe like 5, 6, 10, right?
Yeah.
And that's a problem. You're
David and Goliath taking on the industry.
How do you actually make say like a good anime series with just like 5 people?
Yeah, I understand. Like, it takes so much time to actually animate anything.
Right?
Yeah. So,
and it is kind of like a problem of technology, right? Like currently the technology isn't quite there yet for people to really easily make like animations solo.
Yeah,
and that ties back to a bit with what the visual novel idea I had.
Yeah,
I'm currently working on a framework that allows extremely efficient ways of generating animation. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, can you share that with me?
Yeah, I currently code the non-Cartesian animation rendering technique.
Oh, Okay, so is this a 3D rendering technique or is it 2D?
It's a 3D rendering technique that almost perfectly simulates traditional 2D animation.
Ah, okay. Well, Disney's already on that, by the way.
Oh, son of a...
Yeah.
No, okay. Well. Damn it. Well, I'm going home now, right? Thanks for the podcast, Aubrey.
Sit down.
Okay.
Have you ever seen... There's a small trailer of their studio just having fun called Paperman.
Oh, yes, I've seen Paperman.
You say... okay, all that is 3D animated to look 2D.
Yeah.
And it's so well done. You cannot tell the difference between like the 3D and the 2D. And yeah, so that's what your thing reminded me of.
Yeah, it's pretty much. But also, again, my thing isn't actually for animation per se, but it's more for the whole visual novel.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Thing.
Ah, okay, yeah.
Interesting. With everything.
Yeah. I think we're almost out of time. By
okay, cool. No, that was great.
Yeah. So thanks for coming on, Kevin. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, no, it's been great.
There was a lot of talking. There's even more I want to talk about, but
oh, dude, we always have stuff to talk about, right? Yeah.
Well, we can hang out after this if you want.
Yeah, sure.
Anyways, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Is there anything you want to plug? Anything you want to say that you want to tell people?
Well, I'd like to shout out to my former teammates, Tamara Clark, Sarah Lynn, and Laura Hills. They were really, really quite fantastic.
There you go.
Also, Peter and Murray for also working on Riot Rush.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. You're the best. All right, cool. Any websites you want to plug in?
Websites? Oh, I do have a blog code. It's literally NVEKM.
Yep.
M for mom.com.
Okay, cool.
So nivekm.com. That's
nivekm.com. All right, cool. So go check out Kevin Chen. He's a very talented, aspiring game designer. And I'm sure you're going to do great things in your life.
Cheers.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for listening to the FloorCast. This has been Aubrey and Kevin Chen. And I hope you enjoyed. All right.
Cheers.
Bye. Ciao.